Hey everyone, it's late May, so summertime is almost upon us here in West Michigan, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. By now we all know that electric vehicles are very efficient at what they do, and running around town at low speeds is actually one of the most efficient ways to run an EV. But now that the sun's out and it's a beautiful time to take a bike ride here in West Michigan, I want to go to the grocery store, not using my Zero electric motorcycle or my Tesla. We have lots of beautiful bike trails here in West Michigan, so I would rather take my e-bike. There's a new Aldi that opened near us here on Apple Avenue in Muskegon, and I found a nice back way to get there. Normally, I just use a pannier system with these little side bags, and so I can get a lot of stuff in there, up to and including, a gallon of milk or juice or heavy things. But if I want to carry any more than that, then I start to run into some space issues. Now, anything heavy like a gallon of milk or your favorite craft beer is going to start to get pretty heavy on one of these side bags. So I started to look for a new solution. There are a number of solutions that use baskets and crates, and you can even just get a cheap milk crate and zip tie it to the back of the rack here. I do like to use this bike for other things, so I don't really want a crate that's zip tied or semi-permanently mounted to my rack. So the solution that I found is something called the BiKase Dairyman. What makes this different is a spring-loaded system that will clamp onto a rear rack. You need to look up for your bike what this distance is right here between the outside of the racks to make sure that the BiKase Dairyman can fit on your bike. Now, the BiKase Dairyman is adjustable, both from the spring loading and also how far apart these clamps go. We'll get into the adjustments of that a little bit more in a minute. The other thing that's useful to know is what is the diameter of the tubing of your rack. Now, in my case, it's about 16 millimeters. The Dairyman does come with additional clamps for wider diameter rack tubing. The standard clamps are for 10 to 17 millimeter tubing, but 18 plus millimeter tubing feet are supplied. The way this works is once you make the proper adjustments, you simply pull these apart and clamp them onto the rack. There is also an extra Velcro strap just to keep it secured and one more spot front or back. If you have other panniers mounted to the side, you'll want to make sure that they don't come up so high that they're going to interfere with the clamps. So in my case, what I did is I put these on one of the lower rack tubing mounting points. If I were to put it up on the top, I'd have a collision point right here. Once you have everything adjusted, you simply open the spring-loaded clamps, clamp them in place, and this whole thing is super secure. Obviously, the adjustments impact the amount of spring loading and how stable this is going to be. So simply tighten it as tight as possible. One more level of security is this Velcro strap, and that's one more mounting point to prevent the basket from coming off the rack. Now you're ready to load it up, and again, it will easily fit a gallon of milk and or a 6-pack of your favorite craft beverage. Depending on the spacing, you can even get a second 6-pack in here, and obviously you're going to transport more than beer, so you can put more things here. It does not come with any kind of cargo net or bungee cord, so if you need to secure some loads, you'll need to do that additionally. This is the bungee net that I have for the motorcycle. These are pretty cheap anywhere you buy motorcycle supplies. Again, Amazon, you can probably get one. Typically, they're these stretchy nets, and they'll have little hooks on one side. So this is something you can use to keep anything down in the basket, keep it from flying out, something light like a bag of chips or something like that. So you just drape this over, hook it down into whatever holes, and that should keep everything secure. The other thing that this quick mounting system allows you to do is to disconnect the basket, put it inside your shopping cart, do all of your shopping, repack it after the register, and then you can simply clamp it back on. Make sure you undo the Velcro strap if you attach that before you lift it up. But after that, you simply open the spring-loaded catches and remove it from the rack. I decided to use the larger clamps intended for 18 millimeter plus tubes. As you can see, they still don't bottom out, whereas the ones that are for 10 to 17 do have quite a bit of gap. I think these are going to be a little bit more secure for my bike, but you have to decide for your bike which set of clamps you're going to use. The rack comes standard with the smaller clamps attached, so I'm going to show you how to change it out and put on the larger ones. The Dairyman does come with a whole set of the larger clamps, plus the instructions on how to mount them I have to say the instructions are actually pretty clear, but let's just go through it real quick here. As far as tools, the only thing you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver to loosen the screws that are on the clamps themselves. Now I've already changed out the ones on this side, so now let's change these out right here. The first thing you need to do is to remove this thumb screw. So again, no tools required for that. And you take it all the way out. It is attached into a captive nut inside the BiKase system. So once it comes out, put this aside. You'll probably need to flex the one on the other side, but then this piece slides all the way forward so that the clamps that are attached to the bottom come out of this groove right here. So slide it all the way over. You'll need to flex this side, slide it a little bit more, and now this whole piece comes free. You'll notice that there's still the captive nut system in here. Make sure you don't slide that someplace where you can't reach it easily. So just keep it right there, but it looks like it's pretty firm in there. Now we'll remove these clamps and reattach these. Notice the orientation of the little slider. That's the piece that slides along the bottom of the basket. So when you're all done, it should be facing the basket as opposed to up. There are actually screw holes on both sides. You just need one. In this case, they're mounted on this side. So that's the way I'm going to remount it. So you do need to reuse these screws. The set does not come with an extra set of screws. So let's take that out. And it comes all the way out because you're going to need to reuse it. Keep a hold of this spring right here. It's not under a lot of tension, but you just don't want to lose it. I just felt it break free. So this piece should just pop off now. And again, this spring runs free and it is under a little bit of tension. There is a hole here that the screw goes through, so that's how we're going to have to reorient it. Also, this spring is of a particular orientation. The smaller piece goes towards the outside. So let's just put that right back in. We'll compress it a little bit. And again, you want to put this piece down and it slips right on there. I can see light through the hole. You want to align those two, put this back in. Now, because this is a new piece of plastic, just make sure you don't cross thread it, get it in there straight. You're going to have to hold this piece in to compress the spring. Again, make sure you have alignment on that hole. If it feels like there's too much pressure, like maybe you missed the hole, maybe realign everything. This seems to be going right back in here. It is countersunk, so you should be able to get the screw in flush. Don't over tighten so you don't strip anything. All right, let's repeat it for the other side. Now let's reattach this piece back to the basket. Find the nut that this piece will go into. You need to align this nut, the hole, and the thumb screw. To put it back on, we need to put these sliders back inside this groove. So we do it the reverse of how we removed it. So pull this one over, push it down so that it finds its way into the groove. Work it back, make sure that the hole aligns with the nut, and then thumb screw back in. Obviously keep these smaller clamps in case you ever want to mount this to a different size tube bike. The other thing you can do while you have this flipped over is to adjust the width of these clamp arms, because you want to get it nice and snug, but you also want it to easily fit over the rack. So what you want to do is measure the distance outside side to outside side of the rack itself, and then we can adjust it so it'll just fit over but have plenty of spring tension to hold it into place. I hope you found this useful. We'll see you next time. Now I'm going to charge my e-bike batteries off of my Jackery unit, which itself has been charging off solar.